Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my world of stocks. Before we start today, just gotta say really quick that this video is of course not meant to be political in any way. We are going to talk about Trump stocks today, but literally tomorrow, the very next day, I'm putting out a video on Kamala Harris stocks too. So there's no bias. It's just meant to be a fun way of looking at what stocks may benefit from either presidency. So please don't hit the dislike button just because you don't like the candidate. That's not the point of this video at all. I would never try to convince you guys of anything political. We're just here to talk about some stocks. Okay, with that said though, the cool thing about this particular election is that we have already seen 4 years of each candidate in office. Trump, of course, as president, and Kamala Harris as vice president. So we know what type of policies and strategies they'll likely be pushing for, and thus it makes it a little easier to understand which stocks may positively be impacted by them. One last thing to mention though, at this moment in time, the stock market happens to be up a lot right now at about a record high. So I would just practice some caution here. And as always, only ever buy a stock that you actually like yourself based on your own research at a price that you're comfortable with yourself. Okay. I'm just here to throw some stocks at you that I think would benefit from Trump policies. So let's go ahead and jump into this. We'll start by taking a look at, as I go through the list, I'll mention some different sectors for some added variety, and I'll choose a stock for each one. Okay, so for stock number one, for example, I'm going to go with Chevron in the energy sector because this is really at the heart of Trump's campaign, where he frequently says drill baby drill in reference to increasing the production of oil and gas to lower the price of energy for all Americans. This is because Trump knows that energy dominance and lower prices tends to help ease inflation and keep US dollars in America to create jobs rather than exporting them to pay for energy. As such, Trump said that on day one he will reverse electric vehicle mandates, calling the Green New Deal a Green New scam. And he said that if he is elected, he would retain the $35 billion of tax subsidies for oil and gas companies, something that Democrats have been trying to eliminate. And it's even alleged that he held a meeting in Mar-a-Lago with executives from some of the biggest oil companies, including Chevron, but also Exxon and more, where it's also alleged that he said he could save the industry over $100 billion. Plus, keep in mind that during the Biden-Harris administration, many different pipeline and drilling projects were actually banned, which Trump would likely push through if elected. So the overall gains for the industry would likely be substantial. And when it comes to oil stocks, my favorite just happens to be Chevron, the second largest producer in America, who's actually seen a fairly flat stock price in recent history, only rising by less than 25% over the past decade, while also being down about 20% from the top, leaving behind one of the most attractive dividends in the market at close to a 4.5% yield, with also 36 years in a row of consecutive increases, which could be part of the reason why the current price is lower than even the lowest analyst price targets on Yahoo Finance, meaning they all expect it to rise in the coming years to bring that yield back down a bit. We'll have to see if that indeed happens. Oil and really energy stocks in general tend to be very cyclical, as you can see in their financials, with a correction right now coming off of record highs. But I just think that there's a reason to be optimistic for their future, not just from a Trump presidency helping big oil, but also from their gigantic investments into renewables as well, which we all expect to play a major role in the future of energy. And as such, Chevron has spent many billions of dollars on numerous investments, like in their acquisition of Renewable Energy Group, the majority stake they took in the world's largest hydrogen storage plant, their investments into BioBend, one of the largest carbon storage projects in the country, and many more examples just like this, helping them tap into future growth markets that could be worth trillions of dollars over the long term. And so I just see Chevron as this massive oil company that can continue to rake in profits from that part of their business while also using them to invest in future growth initiatives like those in renewables. And so at a PE ratio of only around 11, I just think it's a stock that can outperform long term given the right conditions. All right, now for stock number two, Well, this one might actually shock you a little bit based off of everything that I just said, because I'm actually going to go with Tesla. I know, didn't I just say that Trump would get rid of the EV mandates and push for more oil and gas? Wouldn't that actually hurt Tesla? Well, there's a couple reasons why I actually think a Trump presidency could help Tesla by a lot, and here's why. First of all, it's no secret that Elon Musk has fallen out of favor with Democrats. Not only did he acquire Twitter to stop censorship that was primarily coming from the left, but he also criticized Democrats many times on the platform himself before eventually just flat out endorsing Trump for president too, calling this the most important election of our lifetime. And because of this, Elon went from really being a hero to the left because of climate change and pushing for electric vehicles and other things like that, to now essentially being considered a villain. So much so that when Biden and Kamala held an EV summit, they didn't even invite Tesla despite them being the #1 seller of EVs. And that was even before Musk ever endorsed Trump. So it seems like the breakup here between Musk and Democrats has been probably coming for a while now. And you even have Trump more recently praising Elon Musk now and saying that he would even consider putting him in the administration, in the cabinet, in some position if Musk has the time for it, which is pretty wild. But anyway, all of this to say that Musk and Trump are a lot closer now than ever before. And I have to imagine that in a Trump presidency, there will be many benefits coming to Tesla because of it. Probably the biggest of those being not just tax incentives, which is a huge part of the Trump campaign, but also maintaining and expanding on Chinese tariffs, particularly on Chinese electric vehicles, which Musk has said for a while now is the single biggest threat to American automakers like Tesla. In fact, he was quoted in saying that Chinese car companies are the most competitive car companies in the world, and they will have significant success outside of China depending on what kind of tariffs or trade barriers are established. Adding, frankly, I think if there are no trade barriers established, they will pretty much demolish most other companies in the world. Well, what do you know? It just so happens that Trump is now considering an even higher tariff on certain Chinese goods, this time for as much as 60%. That's huge. Obviously, we don't know how far he would actually go with all of that, but it's just a clear message that he is taking China very seriously, which again is Tesla's biggest threat. On top of this, I think it's also worth noting that Tesla is about to hold their robo-taxi event next week, which is getting a lot of hype right now. Time will tell how they actually perform there, but I'm hoping for some really good technologies and innovation to help them push even further into autonomous driving while they continue to also work on robotics, AI, and other things that, oh, by the way, tend to get heavily regulated. Well, something that Trump is actually very well known for is cutting red tape. So if that also helps Tesla get robo-taxis out on the road and robots into factories and even people's homes, well, it could be huge for them too. And so with the stock currently trading about 40% down from the top, I just think the combination of tariffs, tax incentives, and deregulation could actually help Tesla perform much better in the coming years. Because even if Trump allows ICE vehicles to continue selling with cheap gas, well, we all know that the future of the automotive industry is still likely going to be electric. So I don't think it's really as big of a deal as people make it out to be if we're looking out over the longer term. All right, now for stock number 3, I'm shifting over to military and defense, because there's no question that Trump really does care greatly about national security. And while it is true that his term actually had relative peace with no new wars overseas, well, one of the reasons why Trump feels that he was able to achieve that was in what he refers to as peace through strength, meaning that if you build up your military and defense capabilities better than anyone else, well, then maybe everyone will take you more seriously and not want to mess with you. Well, there are several stocks that I think would fit the bill here, and even some pure play weapons makers like Lockheed Martin would probably be, at the top of consideration. However, there's actually a different stock that I think has much more future potential, and that is Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR, because while they may not be a straightforward weapons maker, they are far and ahead one of the best at using artificial intelligence and overall data management and analysis to support the military and the government at large, which I actually think may be the most important aspect of defense for the future. And yeah, this is exactly what they specialize in. In fact, they've basically been ranked #1 worldwide in AI, data science, and machine learning by Dresner, Forrester, and even the IDC. And every time I do an update on Palantir, it feels like they've been awarded yet another gigantic contract with the military, like we've seen in the past with the US Army, for example, for their first ever AI-defined vehicles that use deep sensing, targeting, and mission command both on and off the battlefield, as well as just last quarter, we saw that they signed yet another $500 million contract to scale AI and machine learning across the entire US Department of Defense. Not to mention all the work they do in combating human trafficking too, and other spatial analysis that would very likely be utilized by a Trump government that focuses on, the nation's border and stuff like that. But the great thing about Palantir is that it's not just reliant on the government for its success. In fact, they have a large and growing business on the commercial side of things too, using AI to help businesses run more effectively and efficiently, where they're seeing explosive growth with their US customer count soaring by over 80% last quarter. Guys, mind you, this is during what is a pretty weak economy here, where many businesses have been actively preparing for a recession, and business optimism is also at more than a decade low. Yet they're still willing to hire Palantir because of how effective they are, which, by the way, boosting the economy is also something that Trump claims is a top priority for him through lower taxes and other pro-economy type of policies that could potentially make it easier for these companies to continue hiring Palantir for longer as well. Either way though, I think demand will remain high regardless, and it's why really we see their sales and profits continue to soar every year. Unfortunately, the stock has already risen to a record high, but with how on fire they are, it kind of feels like really only a recession could probably drag this one down, at which point I would just use that as an opportunity to buy even more of the stock than I already have. Okay, while Palantir is a bit highly valued, for stock number 4, I'm actually going to give you guys a much cheaper option that I've never covered before on the channel, but the more I research it, the more interested I become. So I think today is as good of a time as any to introduce it, and that is First Solar, ticker symbol FSLR, which is primarily a solar panel developer, maker, and seller. Now, this is another stock here that is very similar to the Tesla situation, I would say, in that normally I wouldn't choose a play on renewable energy for a Trump stock. However, because of the Trump tariffs, well, First Solar actually stands to benefit greatly from them. In fact, that's exactly what happened last time when Trump imposed new tariffs on cheaper solar panels coming from China. It helped First Solar by so much that they even built another new factory in America. And even when Biden and Kamala took over, their CEO pleaded with them not to remove the tariffs either. So I just think another 4 more years of Trump would be another 4 more years of that type of security for them, which even then you could argue that there's already so much growth and demand in renewables that First Solar already has a strong enough backlog to survive either way, extending all the way through at least 2030, and is also evident by them building yet another new factory in America too, despite already being the largest solar manufacturer in the West. But I would just say this, look, Kamala will very likely focus on helping the renewables sector too. So I see this stock as pretty much a buy either way, but big tariffs would be just another added bonus to this already very cheap stock, which is not only down over 20% from the top, but the valuation is anywhere from 20 to 60% lower than the sector too. Guys, that's dirt cheap for a company that is still growing sales at around 30% per year and EPS by over 50% expected on average over the next 5 years as well. All right, finally, guys, coming in at stock number 5, I'm going to go into social media for this one. By the way, if you've been hearing like airplane sounds or anything like that in the background, there's an airplane show nearby, so that's why. So if you've been hearing any kind of outside noise, don't be alarmed. It's not where you live. It's coming through the microphone into this video. But yeah, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, like I said, for stock number 5, I'm gonna go into social media for this one because really, I just remember how the Trump years was an explosion of social media usage. Like everyone was constantly talking about politics. Of course, Trump loves to tweet himself and voice his opinion as often as possible. The media tends to cover it a lot. They love talking about Trump because it helps them get better ratings. Whether any of these things are positive or negative, it's just overall more online engagement and more traffic for social media. I hate how divisive all of it is, but it's something that just kind of increases. There's just a lot more activity in those areas. Yeah, and that's what I saw back then. Now, normally I would say that Meta would be the best play on this particular subject because not only do they have, billions of people using their platforms like Facebook and Instagram, but they also have the second most digital advertising market share, which is huge when there's more online traffic. Plus, you also have here a huge play on artificial intelligence and the metaverse, which could be bigger longer term. And it also doesn't hurt that the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, has actually become a little more friendly towards Trump this past year as well. However, instead of Meta, I'm actually going to choose Google for 2 primary reasons. Number 1, I think Google is just as important of a play here, having even more digital advertising market share while also owning YouTube, which has even surpassed Netflix and is, in my opinion, heavily slept on when it comes to social media. I think a lot of people don't include them because of them being more video focused, so they tend to not include them in the category for social media. But I just see them as like a video form of social media that is super popular. Everyone uses it to get their news these days from both legacy media and alternative media, especially on YouTube. And they also engage super heavily in it as well through the comment sections. So I do think it's a very big play on social media. But on top of that, both stocks, by the way, Meta and Google, are trading near record highs. However, Google has dipped a little more recently and carries a much more attractive valuation with a PEG ratio that is not only still slightly cheaper than the sector, but is also about 20% cheaper than Meta's as well. And with how insanely dominant Google is with so much market share across so many different internet-based markets out there, and with enormous profitability, and is still somehow managing to grow both sales and profits by a double-digit rate, well, I just think Google stock is a buy in practically any scenario at this point, but even more so in a Trump presidency because of how engaged I think everyone will be online, which directly should benefit them. Anyway, these are my picks for now. Let me know what you guys think down below. And by the way, if this video does well and you guys enjoyed it, I may consider doing a part 2 where I cover another 5 potential Trump stocks. So let me know if you'd want to see that. But for now, make sure you don't miss tomorrow's episode because we will be focusing on Kamala stocks there as well, and it should be very interesting to compare the different stocks. All right, thank you for all your support, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.